Hello and welcome to the semifinals of Grand Prix Denver. I'm Ben Swartz, joined here in the booth by Marshall Sutcliffe, and we've got Ryan Pesch on the left-hand side of your screen. He's playing a Rug Delver deck, red-blue-green Delver deck. He's playing against Patrick Cox with the deck of the tournament, Jund.
So far, there's 4 decks left, and 2 of them are Jund.
Yep. Pat Cox has been talking all day on Twitter about how he's been crushing the Rug Delver decks, how he's been crushing the Bug decks, and Ryan Pesch, because of his higher Swiss standings, is going to start things off with a Scalding Tarn and play a turn 1 Grim Lavamancer. Not quite the start. He really needs to completely dominate this game. He really wanted to see a turn 1 Delver, but Grim Lavamancer is good nonetheless. He'll be able to perhaps take out a quick Deathrite Shaman, a turn 1 Deathrite Shaman by Pat Cox, which is his ideal opener. So, Ryan passes the turn back. Pat looks at his opening hand, and he is thinking hard how he wants to plan out this game.
These initial turns are super critical to both decks. Pat Cox needs to find a way to get the disruption that he needs to keep the momentum from Ryan as far as counter spells that are cheap, that can keep Pat from doing what he needs to do, while Ryan on his end needs to find early pressure so that he can make those counter spells worth, give them something to protect.
Sure.
Because just stopping Pat isn't going to be a game plan for Ryan Pesch. If he just stops Pat from what he's doing but doesn't pressure him, then Pat's just going to bury him with Dark Confidant and Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah, so Verdant Catacombs goes and gets a Swamp, alluding to Pat's fear of Wasteland, getting rid of his lands, and turn 1.
Which is a huge tool for Ryan as well.
Turn 1 is either going to be a Thoughtseize or just go. Interesting. He's afraid of the Stifles, also in Ryan's deck. Leads to the Mana Denial from his deck. So Ryan plays a
but he critically doesn't have a turn 1 play here. Yeah, Deathrite Shaman or a Thoughtseize.
That's really important. Ponder for Ryan will help him set up the top of his deck.
Now, Pat Cox could have a turn 2 Hymn to Turok, which, if it resolved, would be very good.
Assuming that Ryan doesn't want to draw that Daze from the Ponder. He doesn't. Looks like he's going to instead draw Lightning Bolt. Ryan does have a Force of Will.
And a Brainstorm in hand, so he has access to Force.
But if you think about it, if you're getting Hymn to Turok cast on you, what 2 cards are better than your Force of Will and your Brainstorm?
That's true.
You'd rather discard 2 random cards. And Taiga comes into play.
So that's not going to be a Hymn to Turok, and it looks like Pat is just passing the turn back, so he's done nothing for the first 2 turns of the game.
Wow.
He is representing Abrupt Decay here, though.
It is true. And that Daze is now drawn by Ryan. So he's access to 2 counter spells. He's got Force of Will and Daze. Brainstorm is going to come down for Ryan. He'll draw 3, one of which he already knows from the Ponder. 2 of which he does know. Put 1 of them back. Looks like it's going to be Force of Will and 1 of his lands. Then he's going to probably play a fetch land for his turn. Crack the fetch land later to shuffle away those 2 cards he doesn't want. The Force of Will and the land. Now he's thinking about it, trying to make up his mind. Yeah, that's what he does. Alternatively, Ryan can play that Wasteland like he does and get rid of the Taiga. In response,
probably Abrupt Decay here.
Yeah, got to be Abrupt Decay.
It is indeed. So Ryan has to decide if he wants to activate it first. He does have access to red mana here. It looks like he just might do that. He's going to dome him for 2.
Yep. Pat falls to 16.
We have 1 spot left for our legacy event. 1 spot left.
Okay, Pat's turn. Down a land from that Wasteland. Both players have no creatures in play. Now a Hymn to Turok would be interesting. We get Daze quickly, but it would be good if Pat didn't expect a Daze, right?
That's right.
2 cards from that 4-card hand.
And even then you have to start plowing through those type of spells at some point. But he is still going to protect against Wasteland here, so he is not going to be Hymn to Turok.
Is he going to play a Dark Confidant? Yes, he will. The 2-1 from Ravnica, but that will get dazed. Yeah, Daze says you can, instead of paying this card's mana cost. You can return an island you control to your hand. Target player or counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. So Brainstorm on Ryan's main phase. He'll draw Force of Will, Volcanic Island, and Dismember. Has to put 2 back.
He's sitting at 19 life, so Dismember is certainly something that he can cast. It's interesting. He wants to keep Pat Cox off of Dark Confidant just because if Pat just draws a bunch of cards, he can eventually get them. But at some point in the game, Dark Confidant will turn on you, and Ryan is probably happy to let him have it. Just that point of the game is not now. Another Dark Confidant for Pat Cox. He does have a fetch land activation available here.
So it's interesting. Pat keeps trying to jam these Dark Confidants to play, and Ryan's has been fighting them tooth and nail. But I mean, Ryan does have 2 Lightning Bolts and a Dismember in his hand to take them out if he wants. And Pat's going to try to activate that Bloodstained Mire. He's a little afraid of a Stifle from Ryan's side.
You can tell he's very aware of it, yeah.
But no Stifle from Ryan. Pat's going to look through his library, find a land.
Do you think he's going to get a basic mountain, or do you think he's going to? He must not have one.
It looks like he's getting bad lands.
Also, if he does eventually want to cast that him, he's going to need to find that second black source. So.
And now he's going to cast a Deathrite Shaman. Now that's actually a really good card because it means that even if Ryan's got a Wasteland, if Pat has another land, he can still cast a Bloodbraid Elf.
Also, those 2 cards go particularly well together in the sense that, you know, if Bob starts knocking your life total down, you can get some of it back with Deathrite Shaman.
I mean, we know that almost definitely Ryan's going to Lightning Bolt that Dark Confidant.
Yeah.
Whether or not Ryan also Lightning Bolts the Deathrite Shaman is unclear. He needs a red land, which he does have in the form of Volcanic Island, to cast both of his Lightning Bolts. He draws a 3rd Lightning Bolt.
Jeez.
Wow, he's actually close to just killing Pat via...
He is. Like, he might want to gamble and let Pat... No, he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, because he doesn't have any creature pressure right now at all. So these are just 1-for-1s. He's just staying at parity here. You got to figure that this favors Pat Cox.
Yeah, with his all the 2-for-1s in his deck.
Yeah.
Both of Pat's creatures get bolted. And Pat's going to try to resolve a Hymn to Torok, which is the perfect timing for it.
It really is, because it's going to take out 2 anyway. And sure enough, here we go. 2 out of the 3 cards are going to be gone.
You're left with 1. Okay, what did you discard?
That's Lightning
the one
Bolt
that he kept. Force of Will. Wow. That's huge. Both of the
huge.
really important spells.
It's starting to look really good as now Pat Cox follows up with a Tarmogoyf. How big is this, a 4/5?
Creature, land, instant, sorcery.
So 4/5.
But that's going to get Dismembered, the last card in Ryan's
hand. And it's another instant, so it's not going to change his power and toughness upon resolution. And now we're left with a land off the top for Ryan, and Pat Cox has 1 card in hand, and he's drawn another one here. This is a good time for a Bloodbraid Elf, and there it is.
Cascade, spin the wheel.
And he's going to hit Hymn to Torok to take away that land.
Attack for 3, put you down to 11.
All right, so this is exactly how Pat wanted this game to go. They 1-for-1'd each other to death, and now Pat's left as the last one standing, and his cards just generate a lot more advantage than Ryan's do.
Ryan does have a Brainstorm here, so he's going to be able to keep one of those top 3 cards. I saw a Spell Pierce and a Lightning Bolt. I believe are the 2 he's putting.
I think he's got a. Oh yeah, okay. So there's.
He's got a Lightning Bolt.
Was there a Mongoose in there?
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll take a look.
Pat has another Bloodbraid Elf here. That's going to be insane. No, he just draws and says go. Okay.
It is a Mongoose, and it hits the table right away. I can't quite get a look on Ryan's library graveyard, but I'm just going to assume that it's a 3/3 right now.
Yeah. Pat pays 3 for Liliana, -2's it.
Hey, that's a pretty nice answer for a creature with Shroud.
Yeah. And the Spell Pierce is drawn.
Instantly passes his turn back, and he's going to lose that Spell Pierce to Liliana. And Thoughtseize goes away. It's pretty not consequential at this point for Pat, and he has a Wasteland to take out the only green source for Ryan Pesch, and he ships a turn back. Ryan draws, shifts a turn, and Pat Cox really looks like he's in the driver's seat here. He has so many sweet draws. Passes the turn back. Spell Pierce number 2 hits the bin for Ryan Pesch. He draws and just ships it right back to Pat Cox. Pat again pluses Liliana. She's already at 4. It's a Nimble Mongoose, which he can't cast, and a Lightning Bolt for Pat Cox hits the bin, but a Tarmogoyf hits the board. And again, Ryan Pesch says, draw, just go.
Wow.
He's going to play something main here. It's going to be a Dark Confidant.
Jeez, it's huge.
And now he gets a plus Liliana, which is going to get a Stifle out of there. And boom, we have Tarmogoyf bashing in for, I believe, 4. It should drop Ryan down to 7.
Fire and Ice drawn for Ryan, so.
Yeah, at least he can cast it.
Yeah. But
does he
want to tap down the Tarmogoyf and
or does he
want
to kill Ba? I don't know. All right, and a Wasteland is revealed by Pat Cox to the Dark Confidant. It looks like he's going to play that. Let's see if he's got a spell as well. All right, half of your mana base goes away. He taps both of them. He's going to play Fire and Ice. He's going to do 1 to Bob, 1 to you, redirect to Liliana. So he let him have a trigger with Bob first.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then decided to play his Fire.
And that's it. Wow,
Pat Cox scoop, and Pat Cox has his way with Ryan Pesch in the first game. That was impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan had a full hand of spells. You know, he was able to get a little momentum going. But honestly, again, you know, the key to this rug deck is that the whole game plan is to get something down early that can deal damage and then protect it. And he didn't have that. He just simply didn't have the pressure. He was able to 1-for-1 and keep Pat Cox from doing things, but Pat Cox has so many cards in his deck that can just generate so much card advantage where Ryan just doesn't.
So
Pat Cox, let's take a look here.
We're going to, be able to take a quick look at Josh Ravitz versus Vidi Wijaya. They have just started what looks to be their second game, or they're going into sideboarding. Maybe we won't see too much of a... Oh, there we go. I'm not sure what the game count is.
Not sure as well, but Vidi, for those of you that haven't got a chance to see it, is playing Esper Stoneblade, and Josh is on Jund. And he's just cast a Hymn to Turok targeting Vidi here, so let's see what's going on.
Vidi has Force of Will.
He can take the 2 cards of his choice, or he can spin the wheel and see what happens.
He's in the middle of resolving Brainstorm, so he can hide some good cards on the top of his library.
Right.
And then let him resolve.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to put the Force on top, so that's not going to be one of the cards that's available.
Wesley Hickman.
Roll 5-6.
Okay. So here we go. Roll the die. That's 1 card that gets discarded. That's a second card that gets discarded. Looks to be a Lingering Souls and a land.
Well, that's not too bad for Vidi. At least you got a Lingering Souls in the yard. That's going to help. Can't really crack that fetch yet. If he wants to keep his
Force of Will.
Force of Will. It's actually a Snapcaster Mage that was with the Force of Will. He decided to keep the Snapcaster, so he still has a Force of Will on top of his library. He does not have the mana to flashback Lingering Soul, so he is just going to go ahead and shuffle away that Force, but he wanted to make sure he got that Snapcaster back.
Sure, that makes sense.
Now he can get a black mana source, and he can flashback Lingering Souls here if he'd like. I'm not sure what else he has in his hand. He might have a Vendilion Click. He's got options for sure.
It's the battle of the nice-looking decks.
It is. This is absolutely a joy to watch. I have to say, just visually, it's beautiful.
And flashback that Lingering Souls. Get 2 1/1 Flying Spirit tokens.
All right, so he does that, in fact.
There you see his yellow tokens.
Ever so subtle.
Now it's Josh 17.
And I don't think Vidi has anything else he wants to do this turn. Maybe he wants... I doubt he wants to cast that Brainstorm. I think he's just going to pass the turn after this. Let Josh have a chance to do something.
So I see that there's a Thoughtseize and a Hymn to Turok in the yard, so Josh certainly has started things the way he wants to by tearing apart Vidi's hand. And it looks like he just has land go here, though.
Wow.
Facing down 2 tokens, not a huge threat, but just doing nothing for your turn is alarming. He attacks for 2, and he is going to play Inquisition of Kozilek post-combat. I see that Josh has a Lightning Bolt and an Abrupt Decay in his hand. He's deciding if he wants to use them. He does. He's going to Lightning Bolt a token, and he's going to Abrupt Decay the other, revealing nothing but a Guru Mountain.
Brainstorm at end of turn for Vidi. I'll let him draw 3 cards, put 2 back.
This is still his main phase, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So maybe he wants to hit a land drop this turn.
Hit a fetch line is the most important thing, and he did hit a fetch line in the form of Polluted Delta.
All right.
So before he gets a chance to draw the next turn, he can crack that fetch land, shuffle away those 2 cards he didn't want.
It's exactly what he's done. Josh is cracking his fetch land on end step, so he's going to get a look at something good. He's got a mountain in hand, and it's his only card. So whatever he draws here better be good. You certainly don't want to let the control deck just sit there turn after turn drawing cards. He's gonna find what he needs with all those brainstorms and ponders and such. Although I think Vidi only has 1 ponder, but full amount of brainstorms, Jason the Mind Sculptor, all that kind of stuff. So Josh draws his card for the turn. He plays the mountain that we saw before, and he just ships a turn back.
It's not good for Josh.
I'll make if I lose this round. Definitely not.
Letting the control player have this many turns to himself.
Is this going to be a Jace? It is. It's Jace the Mind Sculptor for Vidi Wijaya, and he is going to immediately. You think he's going to Fate Seal here? Gets him out of burn range, and also it's pretty clear that Josh doesn't have anything in hand. He does, in fact, Fate Seal. Target Yui says, sure, you can keep that one, and it's an Abrupt Decay, I believe.
Josh just goes land go. Wants to protect that land from something.
So Vidi can continue to Fate Seal, which is exactly what he's doing. He says you can keep that, and he just ships a turn back. Now Vidi doesn't have any way to get any pressure going currently. Does look like he's going to line up the Snapcaster Mage here, though.
Yeah,
and he's going to flash back a Brainstorm. So this does give him a clock. Now, Josh has the card that was on top was a Verdant Catacombs, and what that means is that Vidi plussing Jace gets a lot worse. It just, if he leaves it there, Josh can just shuffle it away and see a fresh card. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Vidi change gears here and start brainstorming and just burying Josh with,
That's what I said.
counter spells and all
there's
that.
no reason to really stop. But both plays are okay.
Yeah. He, he's got a Jace the Mind Sculptor against an empty board. Like he's certainly in a favorable position here.
I think we're going to head back to Ryan Pesch versus Pat Cox while Vidi finishes up that game against Josh Ravitz. And Ryan has started things off already with a turn 1 Grim Lavamancer.
Not the ideal opener, but it's solid.
Yeah. It was the same opener he had last game when Pat,
Yeah, it
demolished him.
serves as more of a control card for Ryan. It can take out any Dark Confidants or Deathrite Shamans on the other side. It is less good about dealing the beats, right? It's not exactly the same thing as a Delver of Secrets or even a Mongoose.
Sure.
Still a useful tool if it lives.
So Bloodstained Mire into Badlands into some sort of spell for Pat Cox. Or maybe he's just saying go again like he did the first game.
He just said go. See a whole bunch of bolts, ponder. They're all upside down. There we go for Ryan Pesch. So he's going to play the ponder.
And that's going to get Pyroblast.
Pyroblasted, okay. So looks like Pat Cox wants to keep Ryan off of his cantrips, and it pays off here as Ryan does not hit his second land drop. The rug deck generally is pretty land light, and he is going to immediately discard his Wasteland, which is going to leave Ryan with no lands in hand and no lands on the battlefield. Let's see if he can draw one here.
Nope.
He didn't. It's a Spell Pierce, and all he can do is attack with Grim Lavamancer. Now the question is, can Pat continue to build his mana base and therefore his board presence?
If he only has that one land, maybe not.
Yeah. I take 1 versus 0, but all right, there's the second one, and it's a Tarmogoyf.
A 3/4 Tarmogoyf at that.
Yep. And right now that Grim Lavamancer cannot be activated, so he can't shrink it down. And is that a Submerge?
Yep,
But he doesn't control an island,
Yeah,
so
he
he
can't use it.
cannot do it. Make sure we keep our voice down, too. I just remembered that.
no.
Don't want him to hear that. I was just saying, he has a Submerge. I don't want him to say it. So.
Another Badlands for Pat and him to Torok.
Turok, although...
Add insult to injury.
Yeah.
This is the best odds I've had of keeping it.
Well, hoping that Ryan discards a creature or,
There's 7.
I guess he doesn't have any planeswalker or artifact.
Yep. And there are 7.
which I don't think he has any either of.
I don't even know that either.
It's never
He just like
happened
shuffle
before.
them up and I say a number 1 through 7, like I'll do it off top. Is that fine? It's random, right?
Some friendly banter here.
Yeah, so he has 7 cards. It's going to be tough
3, so throw one down.
to roll a 6-sided
Now
die
we can roll.
unless.
So they're just going to take one just at random by hand and then figure
Yeah.
out the other one after. All right, so it's going to be a Brainstorm and a Spell Pierce. Not too bad. Getting the Brainstorm out is fairly reasonable.
3. Instant sorcery land. 17. Yeah.
And that Tarmogoyf
Is this a
gonna-
land?
Does not seem to be.
It is not a land. It's a Tarmogoyf. So he's going to pass it back to Pat Cox, and Pat is in the driver's seat here. He's going to keep bashing, and he's got a Bloodbraid Elf too.
Jeez.
All right,
Bloodbraid
Cascade hits
Into Liliana.
Liliana of the Veil,
And
he
Ryan's seen
says,
enough.
"Good game. I've seen enough," and he scoops up his permanents as Pat Cox. You know, you mentioned it. He was saying on Twitter that he was just smashing these type of decks all day.
Yeah.
He smashed it.
Yeah.
Congrats.
2-0 for Pat Cox. He's going to advance to the finals here in Denver. If we can go back over to the other, if the other match is still going, that is.
I think they're in sideboarding, but we can take a look at the bracket. Pat Cox has advanced to the finals. First player to do that. He's going to face the winner of the other semifinals match, Vidi Wijaya versus Josh Ravitz.
So we're either going to see a Jund mirror match, or we're going to see Esper Stoneblade versus Jund. And we're getting a preview of that right now. If Vidi is able to get through, we get an idea to see kind of how this matchup plays out. We haven't had this matchup on camera before. Do we know what the game count is for the other match?
We'll get that information for you guys in just a second.
Yep, digging it up right now.
Our crack team of coverage reporters. They're going to game 2. I believe that VD won game 1.
All right, so Vidi was able to win the first game, and that was, in fact, game 1.
The
So-
Jund player down a game. Let's look at their sideboards, see what they can bring in. What does Josh have?
All right, Josh has 3 duress.
Okay.
So these are going to come in for sure. It's absolutely great versus him. He's got a Nile Spellbomb, which if there's cards that he doesn't really want in his main, he will bring it in. It does hit a few important things from Vidi, but I wouldn't say it's a key card. He's got a life from the loam, so he can grind. He's also got Ancient Grudge, and then what we saw earlier with Chains of Mephistopheles.
That's not how you pronounce it,
How is
buddy.
it?
Chains of Mephistopheles.
Yeah, that one.
Mephistopheles.
Mephistopheles.
Come
Thanks
on,
for
say it with
sharing.
me. Me.
Mephistopheles. I
There
just
we
said it
go.
like 3 times.
Yay!
All right. But he's got that card. He's only got 1 of those, and he's got 3 Pyroblasts as well. So it looks like his sideboard is very well suited for this matchup. I mean, post-board, he can have 4 Thoughtseize, 3 Duress, 3 Pyroblast,
Yeah.
and the Chains as well. Like, this is going to be pretty nice, I think, for Josh. Now, he wasn't able to win the first game, but post-board, it looks like a pretty reasonable advantage for him.
Players are still sideboarding here, trying to find the optimal configuration of their decks.
For anybody just tuning in, we're in Denver. This is Legacy. This is the top 8. This is the second semifinal match. The first one is already finished with Pat Cox winning with his Jund deck over Ryan Pesch and his Rug Delver list. So Pat is into the finals, and the winner of this match is going to be joining him. On the left side, we have Josh Ravitz. He's playing Jund, basically the same list that Pat is playing. I don't know if it's card for card, but it's very similar if not. And on the right-hand side, we have Vidi, and he is playing Esper Stoneblade. He has had an incredible weekend. He's only taken 1 loss so far on the weekend, I believe, to Matt Nass, and that was in a match that didn't actually matter.
Well, it didn't matter for Vidi.
That didn't matter for Vidi, right?
It did matter a lot for Matt Nass.
Absolutely.
Vidi's still playing with his sideboard. I see in his sideboard, you know, he's got quite a few cards he could play. He's got a Force of Will. He's got, maybe he wants to bring in a Dark Blast. The Sword and Feast and Famine is going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he wants to bring in that extra Spell Pierce, the Inquisition Kozilek, maybe the Ball Therapy. He's got some options. That's why he's sitting there thinking so long. Vidi's shuffling up for this semifinal game. So, what do you think about this matchup after board, Marshall?
I think I like the Jund player myself.
Why is that?
Well, I like the way that he has so many hand disruption spells to keep Vidi off of his key win conditions and big spells, and yet at the same time, Josh has the ability to apply pressure. Right? It's that combination that makes these decks that want to do this good. Because if you, like we saw, if the Rug deck manages to keep his opponent off of everything but doesn't have any pressure, he doesn't get anywhere. And this Jund deck doesn't have that problem. He can do them both at the same time. So I also love Liliana the Veil against a deck like Vidi's. It's fantastic to just strip him of resources. It keeps his, he has to start discarding lands or spells, and either way, you stunt his mana development or you take away key spells from his hand. Now, Liliana the Veil, when your opponent is playing Lingering Souls, certainly takes a bit of a hit, but I still think it's worth it. I mean, okay. Josh still has 4 Deathrite Shaman.
These players are getting ready to draw their opening 7s. We should probably be a little quiet. Players are right in front of us. So
yeah, I'm going to remind the listeners that Ben and I are going to be a little bit quieter here because players are not that far from us, and we don't want to take the risk of interfering with the match in any way.
So Josh here on the play.
Yep,
he lost last game.
I heard Josh say he's going to keep. Vidi's still looking. Yeah, he's going to keep as well. So we're going to see a Thoughtseize here. Nope, it's going to be a Deathrite Shaman.
Perfect start for Josh Ravitz.
Quite nice.
A more perfect start would be with a fetch
land. With the fetch, yep.
But turn 1, Relic of Progenitus.
Okay. I guess that does make Deathrite Shaman a bit worse. Remember, Deathrite Shaman targets things in the yard. If there's nothing, if there's only one card, then Vidi can activate. And it looks like Josh is forced to just attack here, which is kind of interesting because he does have multiple fetch lands in hand, so he must just have a 2-drop that he wants to play.
I mean, even if he cracks the fetch, then Vidi can no, he can't respond to mana ability.
What's that? No, not with the Deathrite Shaman. It targets as well.
The Deathrite Shaman's a mana ability, though.
It's not.
It is a mana ability.
Well, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. It's not a mana ability in the sense that it can't be interrupted. It can be interrupted.
Okay.
We need a judge in here. Mana ability that uses a stack. So why call it a mana ability? Yeah, that's really relevant. Thanks, Rashad. Level 3 judge, Rashad Miller. All right, so Brainstorm is going to be taken away by Josh Ravitz. Flooded Strand for Vidi. And Josh is just going to untap.
But even if that card's no longer in the graveyard, it gets countered because of no legal targets? Okay.
Rashad.
So Josh is going to crack 1 fetch land. The Verdant Catacombs go get a Badlands. He's going to crack a 2nd fetch land. He's asking if that's okay.
Because that would be an ideal time for Vidi to use his Relic. It could take away the other one, although we'll just leave him still with the same situation.
And now Josh is likely going to try to cast a Bloodbraid Elf.
Now Vidi does have the opportunity here, if Josh does do that, to use his Relic of Progenitus, but he would have to actually sacrifice it to make that work.
Right.
He can tap Relic to have Josh remove a card in his graveyard from the game, but Josh gets to choose which one.
So Josh is going to choose Verdant Catacombs.
Target the Verdant Catacombs. So now Vidi has a decision here. Does he want Josh to have access to a Bloodbraid Elf at this turn? Probably not, but he might have been hoping for a little bit more from his Relic. Let's see what he wants to do. Yeah, he does in fact pop the Relic. He's going to get to draw a card. The Relic and all graveyards are going to be exiled. That, however, is just a one-time effect. It's not going to stay that way. So Vidi got some value out of it. It basically blanked a turn from Josh's. It seems like he didn't have any other play at all. But Vidi should know now that there's going to be a stream of Bloodbraid Elves hitting the stack here pretty quickly. Vidi's up a game here. Just got to find a way
to press his advantage. Goes and gets an Underground Sea with his Flooded Strand. And maybe a Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah.
There's dogs.
I guess it can't be a Stoneforge Mystic because he got Underground Sea, but does have that other land. He's going to cast Engineer Explosive for 1, get rid of that Deathrite Shaman.
That's not bad. I mean, that Deathrite Shaman certainly represents a threat, but right now Josh is 1 land away from being able to start hard casting, and there it is, Bloodbraid Elves. Sure enough, Cascade Trigger goes on the stack. So let's see what he hits here. It's going to be a Tarmogoyf. So now the question of resolutions, and it looks like they're both just going to resolve. And Bloodbraid Elf is going to bash in there for 3, and all of a sudden Josh has a nice board state to get aggressive with here. Let's see what Vidi pulls.
That was a pretty good Bloodbraid Elf.
Not too bad. There's very few bad ones for Josh here.
I know.
I
I'm
guess
pretty sure he's got another one in his hand.
I think he does too. So let's see if he wants to commit another one to the board. He can hit all types of things. Ooh, he's got a Pyroblast now as well.
So he can play a land and
then try to make sure that both of his Cascades resolve, although they did last time. There's no reason to think they wouldn't this time.
Yeah, I mean, he might be a little afraid of Vidi having a Supreme Verdict still, but no fear. Bloodbraid Elf will Cascade into spinning the wheel.
Thoughtseize. So this is one of the few ways that you can deal with a Supreme Verdict here, if that is something that Vidi has in his hand. But let's take a look at what Vidi wants to do here. He's got to make a decision now.
He does have a Snapcaster Mage in his hand.
He does? Okay.
But in response, is he going to Brainstorm? Yep.
He is. So he's going to often use ability for Brainstorm to in Legacy, which is to hide key spells from hand destruction. So Pyroblast
on the Brainstorm.
Targeting Brainstorm from Josh Ravitz. That happens. Now there's still Thoughtseize on the stack and a Bloodbraid Elf on the stack, so let's see what Vidi has.
Vidi can Snapcaster Mage back that Brainstorm if he really wants to cast it.
He can. He would have to crack his fetch land to do it.
That seems to be what he wants to do.
Now it looks like he's just going to let Josh have a look at the hand. It looks like it's 2 Snapcasters, an Inquisition, and an Academy Rune. So Josh has the option of taking Snapcaster or an Inquisition here.
Josh's last card is an Engineered Plague. So if he really wants to keep that Engineered Plague to get rid of the Lingering Souls tokens, he would take the Inquisition Coslick here. Otherwise,
unfortunately, if he does that, it kind of tips his hand, and then Vidi can just play Snapcaster on Inquisition anyway and get it. And then he gets a 2-1 out of the deal, so you probably just have to take the Snapcaster here.
Yeah, taking Snapcaster, Josh says, and Bloodbraid Elf will enter the battlefield.
It does indeed, so we're going to see an attack here, and probably going to have that Snapcaster Mage is going to get flashed in. It's going to trade for a Bloodbraid Elf, and it's going to get the Brainstorm flashback to start trying to find an answer here for Vidi.
Yep. Vidi searching for a land from that Flooded Strand, gets a Tundra. And he'll do that exact play. Snapcaster Mage for Brainstorm. Blocking the Bloodbraid Elf. Vidi said he'd target the Brainstorm.
He must have said so. I couldn't hear him actually say it, but
well, if he did,
it's actually the only legal target anyway. He would have had to announce his Snapcaster trigger. He wouldn't have targeted because it's the only thing he can target anyway.
Right.
Actually, I think no. Yeah, I think it is the only thing, right?
Yes.
I don't think he has anything else in his yard. Engineer explosives doesn't work. So here comes a brainstorm from Vidi. And he's going to be digging for a way to take care of these two creatures that are putting massive pressure up, and he does not find them.
We'll
So
head
we
to a
have
game
now
3.
evened up, and we're going to get a game 3 here. We've had some really great matches, although, Pat Cox really kind of put a stomp in on the rug deck there of Ryan
Brought
Pesch.
the beat down.
Yeah, he couldn't find another land, and that was that. But this one
I want to show you the back of his head.
is going to be hopefully a thrilling game 3 finale to this match. Both players looking very calm.
You can see in the background the crowd of players watching the match. They've crowded around a little television the tournament organizer has set up. It's kind of like Inception, if you're Rashad.
Rashad wants to try to find Inception on the screen, because if you can see the screen within the screen, then it just goes infinite.
They must go deeper.
Yeah, this is interesting. We have people actually sitting around there on those tables, because it's just easier to see on our monitors exactly what's going on, as opposed to standing around the rail. They can probably hear us too. Still a few people watching from the rail there. All right, I like Ravitz's chances here.
Me too.
And I think that if I had to guess, I think we're going to see an all-Jund finals here at the GP.
Okay. It's your prediction.
New kid on the block. I mean, not that Jund's never been done before, but I haven't seen it have that much success recently, at least from what I was looking at and preparing for the GP.
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily call it the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
It's had some success in tournaments in the past month or so. I know that Brandon Large was a big proponent of it.
He was. I remember that.
So, these players are getting shuffled up for the final game of the semifinals.
So either one.
Who will go to the finals to play against Patrick Cox? I can see Patrick Cox talking strat first on the phone and to his buddies Louis Scott Vargas and Josh Utter Layton.
Not bad to have those guys to tap on the shoulder to
Yeah.
keep you calm before you enter the finals of a GP.
I bet he's calling his good friend Oren Beasley. Hey, buddy, I made it to the finals. I know you didn't think I could, but I did it.
Pat's been very consistently successful for the
Yeah.
past year or so. I
He was
think-
in danger of falling off the train, actually,
Okay.
and has rattled off a number of great events to keep him on. He was a professional Magic player for a while, and he got a job back as a engineer.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, because he was afraid that he couldn't maintain it. But now, after he did that, of course, he starts doing well again.
Yeah, which is really tough to do.
Yeah. Working 7-day work weeks. It's pretty easy, I'd say.
And flying on the weekends too.
Can't help you there.
Okay, let's go to the last game here of the semifinals.
All right, winner of this match gets to meet Pat Cox in the finals. We could have all Jund if Josh Ravitz is able to take down Vidi, or it could be Control versus Grind You. How would you categorize the Jund? Just a mid-range deck?
Yeah, I mean, just 2-for-1ing you, playing aggressive guys, disrupting your hand, not caring about trying to counter spells on the stack. And here we go. Players are going to go ahead and draw their opening sevens for this last match. We'll see if anybody mulligans. Vidi gets to play first. I think his hand is a keeper. He's got turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic. Let's see if Josh keeps.
He's got a Brainstorm and some fetch lands as well.
You can hear the cheers from the crowd. Come on, Ravitz.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hear a lot of people in the crowd getting ready, just looking at it as Josh looks at his opening hand. They're excited here.
Yeah.
It looks like he has a one-lander. with a couple of Dark Confidants.
Risky.
Maybe a
keep if he
Deathrite
does.
Shaman. It's not a fetch land either.
Yeah. And
He's really taken a long look at this hand. This is not the kind of decision that you want to make in any type of haste. You want to really make sure you don't look back at this moment and say, maybe I shouldn't have kept that one.
tournament life on the line.
That's right. And so close to being the Grand Prix Denver champion as well.
Okay, Josh. What are you going to do?
I think he's going to mulligan this.
You think so?
I think so.
I can see his face. He looks very pensive. Just in there thinking. He's keeping.
All right, he is going to go ahead and keep it. Vidi plays, and he draws a
Wow,
land
that's
right
huge.
off the top.
That is huge.
And he has a Deathrite Shaman, and he says go. You know, he knows he's going to have time against Vidi to draw lands here. Now, if he just completely bricks off, then what are you going to do about that,
Sure.
right? But it's not like Vidi's going to combo off on turn 2 here and kill him, right?
Right. Vidi plays Marsh Flats go.
He does not play the Stoneforge.
I think he's aware that Josh would get access to 3 mana if he did that. He'd rather just end a turn Brainstorm than crack the fetch land than untap and cast Stoneforge Mystic.
Okay.
Here he's going to cast a turn 2 Dark Confidant.
And
That
it even
resolves.
resolves. And he's going to attack in there with Deathrite Shaman. All right, so Josh Ravitz with really an ideal start here. He's got a Deathrite Shaman and a Dark Confidant, and Vidi has nothing yet. I think Vidi has Engineered Explosives in hand. He doesn't even go for the Brainstorm. He just decides to just draw a card.
Draws Dark Blast. That's pretty big here to get rid of that Dark
Ooh.
Confidant.
That is huge. He's going to just put a thing into Underground Sea into play tapped and just take out the Dark Confidant and any future Dark Confidants right then and there, although Deathrite Shaman is going to be able to get that Dark Blast, but he's got to do it now, else he gives Vidi the chance to dredge it and then get another activation off of it. So let's see what Josh wants to do here. He's got a full grip. I don't think that he drew a land this turn.
He has to decide whether or not he wants to get rid of that Dark Blast or play another Dark Confidant into that Dark Blast. If he placed it into the Dark Blast, then he can hope that Vidi mills some lands, but no, he's just going to get rid of the Dark Blast now, try to gain 2 life.
Let's see, Vidi looks like he wants to respond.
Sorry, force Vidi to lose 2 life.
Yep. I don't think Josh is going to have another play this turn, unfortunately,
I don't think
for
so.
him. But Vidi's going to be very happy to see that Josh is going to miss a land drop, I believe.
Yeah, it'll also make Vidi
He
more
did.
weary to crack that fetch land.
Yeah, exactly. Vidi's managing these resources very, very carefully. He still has the Engineered Explosives in hand. He's got a couple of lands and a couple of Brainstorms along with a Stoneforge Mystic. And he is going to go ahead and crack it now, so he's going to make a move.
Probably going to cast that Stoneforge Mystic, or maybe the Lingering Souls.
Oh, does he have a Lingering Souls?
I believe he does.
Oh, okay. I did not see the Lingering Souls. He does look like he has 3 mana lined up here, but that could also just be he could just go for the Engineered Explosives to take out the 1 Deathrite Shaman. It depends on what he wants to do. Unless, of course, the Lingering Souls and the Engineered Explosives are the same card that we're seeing, and we're just not sure which one it is.
He's going to Brainstorm.
All right, just going to go for a Brainstorm. Vidi's very patient.
Yeah, he does have a Lingering Souls in his hand.
Okay. Does he have Explosives?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's just got both.
And that's going to get Power Blast to that Brainstorm.
Yeah, Josh is very aggressive with those Pyroblasts. He doesn't let Vidi get Brainstorms through, although I think Vidi's got another one. He does.
But he's going to crack that fetch first. Maybe to get 3 mana for the Lingering Souls, maybe to get 3 mana to Engineer Explosives away the Deathrite Shaman. He'll get a Scrubland. Just doubling up on each and every one of his colors.
Right. Indeed, he does go ahead and cast and activate his Engineered Explosives, and that is going to take down. It's just a 1-for-1, but it's a critical one, as it was a mana source for Josh. But it looks like Josh has the other Dark Confidant, and he's also found a land which he casually puts down on the table to cast his Deathrite Shaman, and all of a sudden, Josh has built his board back up in a big way.
So
Lingering Soul.
Vidi drew Sword of Feast and Famine. He's going to cast Brainstorm. He's gonna
So
drop
he
in
can
Dillian
go
Click.
Lingering Souls here, and if he hits a land, he can
Yeah, he
cast
hit a
an
land
equip
off the
next
Brainstorm.
turn. Yeah, so he can cast an equip next turn and have just a huge turn where he makes Josh discard, makes him take damage, and on top of it gets to have all of his mana untapped.
Yeah, but Josh does have that Abrupt Decay in his hand, so he can hold off and try to cast that if there's any sword shenanigans. He can also just try to cast a Bloodbraid Elf into the Miser's Maelstrom Pulse.
Yeah,
Or
and
even
and that is,
Engineered Plague.
That is a big thing for Vidi, because if he does move in on that play
Yeah.
and he gets the sword Abrupt Decay, he's not going to get it. Okay, thanks.
So Vidi's going to put the sword on top
Just don't hear anything.
and crack that fetch. So the sword is going to get shuffled away.
2-hit giant players, your appearance are up from the crowd. 2-hit giant players, your appearance are up.
And get a Tundra. Then play what? I think that, yeah. The Lingering Souls. He's also got a Snapcaster Mage. There's nothing really to get back. Yeah. Oh, he's got a Snapcaster Mage Brainstorm.
So it looks like he's got something specific in mind that he's digging for, because he's...
Inquisition, Swords of Plowshares,
Wow.
and Thoughtseize all drawn.
Okay, that was a pretty nice one.
Nice.
He can pick one of them to cast this turn. Probably just going to Swords to Plowshares the Dark Confidant, do you think? He could Swords either creature if he wanted it for a good effect. It keeps Josh off of 4 mana if he takes out the Deathrite Shaman. Also, if he takes out the Deathrite Shaman, it makes his Lingering Souls better going forward. He could also take out the Dark Confidant. He also could just go for an Inquisition. Depends on what he's worried about here.
He's got answers to everything. He just has to decide which is the most effective answer.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Or which thing is
What's the most
worth the answer.
urgent? Yeah.
Okay.
Swords to Plowshares,
Bob.
Dark Confidant. All right, so he's exiled. Josh will gain a life. And Josh does get to untap with an active Deathrite Shaman here.
So he can
He has
cast
got
that Bloodbraid.
He's got a Bloodbraid Elf in his hand. He can just run it out there. It's pretty good here. I mean, it really does depend on what it hits.
And he can also
Vidi
cast
had-
that Hymn to Torok in his hand.
Okay.
And
I like
then
that idea.
Hold up Abrupt Decay.
I think I like him. I like him better. He can't have Abrupt Decay up, though.
You're right. Yeah.
All right, so Lingering Souls hits the bin. And unfortunately for Josh, he doesn't have the ability to use his Deathrite to remove it unless he has another black mana source that I do not see in his hand. Just going to take a look here through Vidi's graveyard.
He's going to get rid of the Polluted Delta, get a color of mana, cast another Deathrite Shaman.
Okay, that's not a bad addition. These Deathrite Shamans have done serious work this weekend. And Vidi is now playing off the top of his deck thanks to that last Hymn to Turok. I think it's a Jason Mind Sculptor that he had put on top.
It's a good one.
And
It's a really good one.
it's a really good one. He can play.
Oh, it's
It's a
Stoneforge
Stoneforge
Mist.
Mystic. Okay, and that's actually going to shuffle, so must not have been a Jace. So Stoneforge Mystic, you can go grab Batter Skull or whatever it is that he thinks he needs.
Jite.
It's a Jite.
So he probably doesn't want to play that now. It's got to be afraid of Abrupt Decay, but we know that Josh does have Abrupt Decay. So if Josh draws a land for the turn and there's enough fetch lands in the graveyard, he can play Bloodbraid Elf and hold up Abrupt Decay for the Yumasau's Jite.
Yeah.
He's going to flashback Lingering Souls, Vidi.
There it
Put
is.
2/1/1 Spirit tokens into play. Pyroblast is drawn for Josh. Not the land he really wanted. So now you see Josh put to a decision. Does he want to get that Bloodbraid Elf in there? Does he want to hold up Abrupt Decay, play a little slower of a game?
I mean, because he can.
That's what he does.
He's just going to pass the turn back.
Yep.
So he wants to see if Vidi is going to bite. And it looks like he is so far. He's just casting it as well. He's not going to use Stoneforge, and he's going to equip it to the Stoneforge. Oh, no, to a token. Sure. And he's going to attack with both Spirit tokens.
Okay. And Josh is going to
not the Snapcaster Mage. And Abrupt Decay is going to hit Jite, and that is before damage. So there will be no shenanigans. And basically, he's going to exile a land and his Swords to Plowshare. So Josh got a great advantage that turn. He gets to hit him for 2 anyway. And on top of it, he basically made Vidi use up his entire turn.
Yep. Engineered Plague drawn. That's also gigantic for Josh, because he can cast that Engineered Plague and get rid of the 2 Spirit tokens. Or he can just jam down that Bloodbraid Elf.
20.
He wants to double check to see what exactly is in Vidi's graveyard.
He's got 1 fetch land.
One card in Vidi's hand. This game is a real nail biter.
It certainly is. It's really, really tense in here. If you look over at the people in their seats, they're all leaned forward. Engineered Plague for Josh Ravitz. He's going to name Spirit. And it's going to take those down, and it's really going to just nullify any further Lingering Souls drawn by Vidi, which is nice to have as a little backup plan. It's a Brainstorm for Vidi, and he's immediately going to cast it. As the only other card he has in his hand is a Flooded Strand. He sees Marsh Flats,
Thoughtseize, and
a Swamp. So not an amazing set of cards here, as Josh is slowly building up some momentum with his Deathrite Shamans. It's 3 turns. You know, he doesn't have the mana to do it, but I mean, if he can start doing 4 a turn.
Interesting that Vidi chose not to play the Thoughtseize there.
Just passed it back.
Doesn't want to take the damage, but now Josh has access to that Bloodbraid Elf in his hand.
Looks like it is time for the Bloodbraid Elf to come down.
Josh drew a Wasteland on this turn.
Okay, it's a mana source for him. I don't think that there's a huge advantage to him actually killing one of Vidi's lands, as Vidi seems to have plenty of them with 6. So I think we're just going to see. All right, Josh is going to remove that last fetch land, and he's going to play a Bloodbraid Elf. All right, so this is a big play. Let's see what Josh hits off of his Cascade. It's a Thoughtseize, not the best card that he could hit. It's not unreasonable.
It's actually pretty bad.
Yeah, but it
takes 2.
Probably the worst card he could hit.
He could hit.
I guess him would have been better. Liliana would have been better. All right, so he's going to battle in with the Bloodbraid Elf. That is going to knock Vidi down to 9. Vidi's going to crack his fetch to go to 8. All right, so Josh Ravitz is in a good position, but he is not fully stabilized. He does have Vidi. I mean, sorry, not stabilized. He's not fully in dominant board position, as one board sweeping effect or one big play from Vidi can get him back in it, but he is top decking.
So Josh passes the turn back to Vidi.
Vidi doesn't want to go below 8 either, because then that would be in range of double activation plus Bloodbraid Elf. He's got Snapcaster Mage, which is going to be blocking the Bloodbraid Elf, and he's going to remove something, a Brainstorm from Vidi's yard. It's going to put Vidi down to 6. And Josh is very, very close to making the finals here.
He's going to drop Bloodstained Mire.
What's the other card in his hand? Is a Pyroblast still, so he's going to attack. He's going to offer the trade. And Vidi's going to take it.
So Vidi has 1 draw step.
He's got. All right, so now it's time for Josh to use his Wasteland. This is just a nuts and bolts play. This probably won't matter, but why not?
Yep.
All right, and these 2 Deathrite Shamans, that's a Hymn to Turok. Oh, it's Perish?
Huge.
Is that a Perish?
Perish.
Wow, Perish off the top for Vidi.
Perfect card.
absolutely perfect in response. Josh is going to get to use both of his shamans to drop Vidi down to 2. But it's going to leave Josh with just the Pyroblast in hand.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Josh is left trying to find a way to finish off Vidi here. Vidi might have just bought himself a lot of time. Let's see what Josh draws for the turn. He draws a land. He has nothing, and he just has to say go. Now, that Pyroblast is going to be fantastic if he does draw like a Jason the Mind Sculptor or something along those lines. Right now, Vidi has 2 lands in hand. He plays one of them, and there's a Tarmogoyf. All right, so that's going to apply lethal pressure. Right now, though,
Swords to Plowshare.
it's a Swords to Plowshare,
Wow,
so Vidi is going to stay alive longer.
Top decking his way out.
He passes the turn back. He does have the Stoneforge Mystic, which can block. But, yep, sure enough.
I think Tarmogoyf's 5.
Goes away.
5 power because there's an artifact, instant, sorcery, land, creature. So Josh goes to 21. Plays another land, says go.
Plays a land. What does Vidi draw for the turn? But a Brainstorm. Now, here's a really instant. This is a really interesting question because Josh certainly would like to be able to take care of like a Jason Mind Sculptor with that Pyroblast, but at the same time, he doesn't want to let Vidi even dig for it here. So do you think he's going to use it?
I think so. Josh has been aggressively using his Pyroblast.
He does. He just says nope. All right, passes a turn back. So can Josh find a way to kill Vidi?
He needs a Bloodbraid Elf
He
so
needs
badly.
a Bloodbraid. Okay, so Vidi has a second Stoneforge Mystic here. We know that he still has... Whoa. Okay, yeah, he's just going to tap his mana a little different. We know he still has that sword floating around. Does he have a Batterskull he can get? He does. He has the other Stoneforge Mystic that's already active. He can use that to flash in the Batterskull and stabilize. So Josh Ravitz needs to find like a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, Lightning Bolt would be sweet.
He can play a Bloodbraid Elf into a Lightning Belt potentially.
Draws Abrupt
He's
Decay.
drawn an Abrupt Decay, which is not unreasonable, but it certainly isn't the card he was hoping for here.
It's going to save him for a turn because he can Abrupt Decay the Germ Token.
The Germ Token, that's right. So it's going to give him another draw here. And it's a Sword of Feast and Famine.
This is going to be good if Vidi slams it down and equips it.
And equips it to one of the Stoneforge Mystics.
If he equips it to the Germ Token,
then it's really good for Josh Ravitz.
But if he just plays it, then Vidi doesn't have enough mana to plays it and equips it. Vidi doesn't have enough mana to bounce the Batterskull and replay it.
That's true.
But he's going to equip it to the Batterskull. Actually, the worst possible.
No, I think he's going to put it on the
Germ Token.
He did put it on the Batterskull though. Okay,
yeah.
So that was a big tempo play for Josh Ravitz. It's going to give him another chance here.
Oh, but he is able to get in with the Stoneforge Mystic. I missed one of the lands on the bottom.
Yeah, but that didn't gain him any life, so he's still at 2. So what does Josh Ravitz draw?
It's a black card.
It's a black card. I think it's a Hymn to Turok or something, and he just sits there with his arms folded. It looks like he's going to play it. Is it a... Oh, it's a second Parish?
No, it's a second Engineered
Excuse
Plague.
me, not... Yeah, that's what I meant. Engineered Plague. And so what does he name here? Core? I think it's a Core Artificer, right? So...
Yeah.
Core.
Yeah, so he did name Core with it.
That Parish was such a good top deck.
That was amazing top deck. And right now...
Josh needs like Bloodbraid into Maelstrom Pulse. There's
he has a Bloodbraid Elf.
Okay. This is
right.
magic here.
He is not dead yet, guys. Let's see what he does after he Bloodbraid Elves here. If he can find a way, I mean, we saw that he had a. I think he's got Ancient Grudge in his board.
Yep.
So
that
he can hit
really,
that.
really good.
Yeah, because he can use that to take out both pieces of equipment that way. All right, Bloodbraid Elf it is. This could be a huge cascade here. Let's see what he hits. It's a land. It's another land. It's another land. And it's a Thoughtseize.
The worst possible.
Absolutely
Again.
the worst possible.
I don't think you want to cast it if you're Josh here. Anything that's good enough, Vidi would have already played.
So you don't even care.
And you don't want to take the 2 damage because that's actually
shuffle any cards you aren't cast or
pretty
shuffle and then
important.
put on the bottom.
So he's got to shuffle all these and then put them on the bottom in a random order. And that Bloodbraid was not able to hit one of the key spells that Josh really needed.
Josh has to play defense with this Bloodbraid or else he's soon dead. And there's a Swords of Plowshares drawn by Vidi. Vidi's just going to attack with his Germ Token.
Yep, it's going to get in there for 6. He doesn't have anything to play pre-combat. He's just going to say go, but it looks like Vidi is going to be able to take this down as Josh finds
That's the match. Vidi
a
takes
green
it.
creature, and Vidi is able to not only stabilize via Pesch, but instantly find exactly what he needed in the form of Stoneforge Mystic into Batter's Skull with a Stoneforge Mystic already on the table. And even though he was all the way down at 2, he finds a way to win. And now the finals is not going to be a Jund mirror.
Nope.
Instead, it's going to be Jund versus Esper Stoneblade.
The matchup we just saw.